Hello, everyone. So for those who don't know me, Arjun Jamnadass, I'm a managing director at FTI Consulting. And over about the next 15 odd minutes, I'm going to talk a bit about, and you've heard a lot of this already, so I might be reiterating it, how no-code is propelling citizen development in the enterprise space. And really, what can organizations do to activate and scale this the first time round? So I'm going to start by stating something fairly obvious, and that is the demand for digital is exploding. I read a very interesting statistic the other day that in 2018, global demand for digital transformation was $1 trillion. By 2022, end of this year, that will have risen by $800 billion. And in the next 3 years, by 2025, that will have risen another $1 trillion to $2.8 trillion. So not only is it growing, it's exponential. So by that metric, we truly are in the digital age. But small fly in the, rather, a large elephant in the room, and that is we don't have enough software developers to cater for that demand. Indeed, by 2026, in the US alone, there's projected to be a shortfall of 1.2 million software developers. 87% of organizations already feel the pinch or expect to feel that very soon. And this problem is getting worse, right? Demand is outpacing supply by a factor of 5. So what this means is the way we digitalize or we transform today is simply not sustainable. We need to find an alternative way. Fortunately, as we all know, there's a fairly big silver lining, fairly bright one, and that is we are witnessing democratization of software development. It's happening right now, and it's being heralded in by low-code and, more prominently, no-code. What was once the exclusive domain of software developers with years of experience is now being opened up such that anyone with an idea can turn their ideas into apps. And such is the game-changing nature of this trend that analysts are making some pretty bold predictions, right? In 2 years, 80% of digital tools and services will be created outside the IT department, 80%. And on top of that, low-code and no-code platforms in particular really accelerate the creation of digital tools. So what we have is a situation where the answer to the software developer shortage also accelerates digital transformation. It sounds like a no-brainer, right? Where do you sign up? And indeed, many organizations have already cottoned onto this fact. And they're starting to realize that right now, within their ranks, they have this incredibly large latent capacity that they need to figure out how to untap. Enter the citizen developer. I'm sure you all know this by now, right? The term was coined back by Gartner in 2017. But who are they? Well, really, they're all of us, potentially, right? They come from all walks of life, all academic backgrounds, technical or otherwise. But one thing they do have is a few core sets of characteristics. For a start, they are intimately familiar with their jobs and the remits they run. They understand the processes they orchestrate like the back of their hands. They understand their customers' needs and how they service them. They understand how to generate value for their organizations. So the question is, how do organizations figure out how to activate citizen development in their organization? How do they create an environment where individuals like this are empowered to go and turn their own ideas into apps? Well, that is a big question. And what you see right now somewhat gives an answer to that. This is the Citizen Development Maturity Model. I love this. It's by PMI. And what you can see is that citizen development in the enterprise is a journey, right? It's from humble beginnings at discovery all the way to that hallowed, innovating organization. And organizations need to contend with two seemingly opposing themes through this journey. On the one hand, it's about democratization. It's about empowerment of the individual. It's about devolved decision-making. It's about creating that environment for entrepreneurial flair, for innovation, But on the other hand, it's about tightly controlling risk. It's about, well, taking that risk off the table. It's about ensuring compliance, ensuring repeatability, predictability. And as an organization moves through this, they need to contend with these two themes, and how they do so evolves. Effectively, more formality is required. Early on in the journey, less formality is required. Now here's the thing. Getting to stage 1 of that maturity model, or indeed stage 2, experimenting, that's relatively straightforward in the grand scheme of things. Citizen development at stage 2 will be pretty ad hoc, right? It will probably be isolated to a single team or perhaps a department. There might be a few use cases in flight, or some might have already been delivered. One thing's for certain, there will be positive sentiment, right? Individuals will have started to recognize the value that no code outside the IT department can actually add to the organization. Now, IT will be aware of what's happening. Indeed, if it wasn't them who already brought this proactively to address their own capacity concerns. But they will be stopping short of formally endorsing this, rubber stamping it. But things take a pretty big change when organizations are knocking on the door of that adoption phase. And this phase is characterized by IT giving that green light, that proverbial green light for citizen development, for this way of working outside of the IT department. So it's a big change for them, right? But it's also characterized by leadership of the organization, endorsing this way of working, endorsing citizen development as a way to achieve the company's digital transformation aspirations. So how do you do that? Well, in order to make that decision seamless, you need to demonstrate a few things. For one, you need to demonstrate sustainable value creation through no code. You need to demonstrate that there's a bit of a plan, right? We don't want to stay isolated in a single department. We want to scale this thing. What is the business case for scaling? Have you got other department heads involved? Have they been brought in? And then importantly, you want to be able to demonstrate management of risk. You want to be able to demonstrate that consistently and also maintaining compliance through this process. So there are quite a few moving parts to this, but the way we look at it, there are 4 overarching dimensions which fundamentally influence the success or failure of enterprise citizen development. Indeed, how they are provisioned, managed, it's the difference between success, growth and scale, or stagnation and failure. So the first dimension, we all talk about it, it's governance and alignment. And here we look at what are the mechanisms that are in place to facilitate strong but appropriate IT governance, but also what mechanisms are in place to facilitate collaboration with IT and the business as peers. We look at KPIs and reporting. What's being collected? Where is it being collected from? Is it at the micro project level, or is it at the ecosystem level? And how are those metrics being used to course correct or drive continuous improvement in the citizen development function? We look at the operating model and the underpinning culture. Is the culture conducive to citizen development? Does it allow devolved decision-making? Are there defined roles and responsibilities? Or are they leveraged from existing structures? Are they specific to citizen development? And do people know who's accountable for what? Does IT know what the business is accountable for? Does the citizen developer know what the department head is accountable for? Or are these commitments transparent? The next dimension is capability, and here we look at both business and technical capability. So business capability really looks at an individual's ability to go from a fledgling idea through to a well-baked solution that considers the whole, considers the value chain upstream and downstream, rather than a siloed little tool. And individuals require a whole host of different skill sets to do that, from facilitation skills, facilitating ideation sessions, to stakeholder management, communication, project management, and change management. Technical is more focused on an individual's ability to leverage a no-code platform, or low-code, to build an enterprise-grade application. We also look at how does the organization cater for gaps in knowledge? Are there defined learning paths? Are there minimum criteria against which basically says, can you do this? And if you can't, well, you simply can't participate. The next dimension is project delivery. And here we look at the end-to-end lifecycle projects, but also in life. How well catered to citizen development is this project lifecycle? Is it specific? Is it a hyper-agile lifecycle? And what I mean there is, does it cater for projects of different complexity? Does it emphasize speed when the situation allows it? So lower projects get fast-tracked. Lower complexity, projects get fast-tracked. Well, higher complexity projects, they get the additional resources and expertise that they need. And then finally, the fourth dimension, this is around business value. We look at vision and strategy. Does it exist? Has it been defined? How closely does it link to the overarching organizational strategy? Is there additional buy-in from other parts of the business? And we also look at value tree metrics. And this effectively looks at how do you quantify and capture value creation at the project level? And how does this filter up the organization to perhaps align with the organization's overall balanced scorecard, for example? And this is really just scratching the surface. There is a lot more detail to it. And that's why, and we recognize it's pretty hard to figure out where to start. And that's why at FTI we created what we call the value realization and scale diagnostic. So this is an assessment that we offer to organizations, and it really caters to organizations at any stage of that maturity model, but it's particularly relevant to those who are knocking on the door of that formal adoption stage. And what we do is we assess performance, we assess effectiveness against the 4 pillars, and 4 dimensions and 9 pillars I spoke about. And this allows us to create a playbook and a set of recommendations, both tactical quick wins, but also strategic longer-term endeavors. And the idea is, over here, we allow the company to understand where they are in terms of their current readiness to both adopt and eventually scale citizen development. Now, the outcome of this is it provides that mandate, right? Organizations, especially gatekeepers, will understand what needs to be done to create a robust environment, a resilient environment that they can get behind, that they know there's going to be value creation, it's sustainable, and it can be expanded across the organization without breaking anything. It also gives that direction.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.